the brokenness of the nuclear family, the brokenness of the black family, the fact that black fathers are absent, that young black men turn to drugs and gangs.
How dare
and by the way,
well, the
this
family,
is also
I
true
think the
for
family
young
in general
white
you can
men
point to. I don't know that
Minnesota.
one race over the other works.
This is also true for the murderer who killed the 2 young children, a white man.
Man, must have touched a nerve with that one. Joining me now, the lady who touched that nerve, Liz Wheeler of the Great Liz Wheeler Show. Hey, Liz, what in the world got hers hackled so far up? I mean, the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah, I was surprised that she would be so triggered by something Barack Obama said a decade ago. But, you know, you can't always predict with these socialists what exactly is going to get them going. I think that's probably it. I did not know who she was before I debated her. I looked her up afterwards, and it turns out that she's not just a Democrat, a former Democrat state rep. She identifies as a Democrat socialist. So think about this for a second. If you were to make the statement that, oh, it's good for children, it's good for adults, it's good for communities, it's good for society, it's good for our country if marriages are intact. It would be great if we encouraged and incentivized black families to remain intact. Think about what that would entail. Think about the implications of that statement. That would require us to promote marriage between one man and one woman versus this redefinition of marriage to include same-sex couples. It would require us to acknowledge the objective truth that a man is a man and can't be a woman, and a woman is a woman and can't be a man. It would require us to actually be happy when children are created instead of portraying children as a burden and terrible. And it would also require just this general idea that government is not your parent, that government's role is not to be in charge of you or take care of you, that primarily falls on the nuclear family as created by God. All of these things, Jesse, are the antithesis of the socialist ideology that she espouses. So, yeah, what I said, Barack Obama beat me to it by about a decade. And he said it, honestly, more beautifully than I did. But the reason she's so triggered is because socialists need to destroy the nuclear family. They can't bear the thought of actually trying to fix the brokenness that black families are experiencing today.
Why, Liz? Why is it that they would destroy something as wonderful as the nuclear family? 2 parents, a man and a woman, by the way, 2 parents, kiddos. Why would you ever want to destroy something like that?
Well, if you look to Antonio Gramsci, the Italian Marxist, he was the one who wrote and said, listen, when Marxist revolutions are successful, it's not because of economic discontent. It's not because the working class revolts against the ruling class. When Marxist revolutions are successful, they're successful because first, the civil institutions in a country, that's the media, the education system, the law, religion, and the nuclear family are first destroyed. And once those civil institutions are destroyed, because that's what people rely on, then a free government can be toppled and Marxism can be imposed on the people. What we're seeing in our country, I wrote about this in my book, Hide Your Children, Exposing the Marxists Behind the Attack on America's Kids. What we're seeing in our nation is this deliberate, relentless attack on the nuclear family for the express purpose of destroying it as a civil institution. That's why we see the Black Lives Matter movement doing the same thing with the law, the restorative justice policies that allowed the murder of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's an attack on the civil institution of the law. We see it on the education system, critical race theory, and transing our kids in public school classrooms. What? We see the wokeness that's infiltrated and pervades, especially evangelical churches in our country. We see this in all of the institutions that Gramsci identified as the institutions that need to be destroyed before a free government can be toppled and Marxism can be imposed on people.
Liz, the right, much of the right, not all of it, not at all. We are waking up slowly but surely, but so many people, especially normal people, struggle with realizing, acknowledging that the destruction is intentional. You know, they think it's soft on crime, as if that's their policy. They're just too nice, Liz. That people don't understand. They want people murdered. They want people raped. That's how you destabilize and break up a society. It's not a whoopsie, an animal stabs some woman to death. That's what they want.
Yeah, if we don't acknowledge the reality of the political enemy that we face, then we won't be able to defeat it. But that's one of the things that actually has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. This is, I mean, you could call it the red pilling of the right if you want. A lot of people have had their eyes open to the reality of what we're facing, whether they saw the Black Lives Matter riots of 2020, these mad Marxist riots in the name of racial justice, which sounds good. We all support racial justice, but really they were about the destruction of private property and the destabilization of our criminal justice system. People didn't like that. They were incredibly red-pilled to see Democrat politicians supporting arson and robbery and theft and assault of police officers. And then you had COVID, which opened people's eyes to the fact that the experts lie and manipulate and harm you for their own profit and power. You see this incredible pushback against the technocracy that has gripped us for the past generations. And I actually find it incredibly encouraging. It's why I think there's also this spiritual renewal that's happening in our country, why so many young men are becoming conservative, why so many young men are becoming Catholic, because they realize actually what we're facing in our country is not Republicans bickering with Democrats. We are in a spiritual battle of good versus evil. And when you recognize that, then you begin to explore, okay, well, if what we're facing, this discrimination against men, vilifying men for being, for having testosterone, telling them that they're toxic, that they're inherently rapists if they're not indoctrinated out of it, deprived due process when they're faced false accusations by, crazy women. When you face that, you realize that's not just soft on crime. That's evil. And if there's evil, there must be good. And so the younger generation specifically, as much as we like to criticize them, they're actually exploring what is good. And they're finding, of course, the author of all things good. And that's a positive thing, but it does sometimes first require you to have that jarring moment of acknowledging, wow, what we're facing is actually deliberate destruction of everything that we know and love.
Liz, how do we tackle this when they're not sorry? I mean, that judge who turned that animal loose is not sorry. Democrats are not sorry. Democrat politicians, judges, media people, they're not sorry for what they believe. They're not asking for forgiveness. They have not shed a single tear, nor will they. It's going according to plan. How do we defeat that?
By prioritizing justice over misplaced compassion. It's funny, actually, that you mentioned compassion before, like, oh, soft on crime. They're just a little bit too sympathetic to criminals. That's what some Republicans think about Democrats, when the reality, of course, is that Democrats are doing this on purpose. The party that actually suffers from misplaced compassion is the Republican Party. The Republican Party extends too much benefit of the doubt to our opposition because we want to love humanity. We do love humanity. We know there's good in every person, and we want to draw that out of people. We don't want to write them off. We don't want to consign them to a life of misery because they once held a bad opinion. The Republican Party, though, while that's a fine attitude to have maybe in your personal life or in your spiritual life, when it comes to the application of government, our highest moral value is justice. And justice does not allow injustice. Justice does not allow racial equity in criminal justice task forces to allow criminals who happen to have black skin be let off 14 times because he happens to have black skin, at the detriment, of course, of the poor woman who was left to bleed out on the train after she was stabbed in the throat 3 times.
Oof. So friggin' sad. Liz, appreciate you. Come back soon. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.